ei hun yn ei ôl I waref eto. Ond yma ar Sianel 4 Cymru mae gennym ni ffilm. And so to our Film on 4 presentation this evening, here's Bernard Hill as Lech Walesa in Squaring the Circle.
A few lines for level, please.
Sound.
Sound running.
Camera. Speed. Marking.
Film on 4.
Toward the end of July 1980, Edvard Gerik, first secretary of the Polish United Workers' Party, which is to say the boss of communist Poland, left Warsaw for his annual holiday in the Soviet Union by the Black Sea. There he met Leonid Brezhnev, first secretary of the Communist Party of the USSR. In an atmosphere of cordiality and complete mutual understanding, the two leaders had a frank exchange of views.
Comrade! Comrade, as your friends and allies in the progress towards the inevitable triumph of Marxist-Leninism, we are concerned. Deeply concerned by recent departures from Leninist norms by Polish workers, manipulated by a revisionist element of the Polish intelligentsia.
Comrade First Secretary, as your friends and allies in the proletariat struggle against international capitalism.
This isn't them, of course. And that isn't the Black Sea. Everything is true, except the words and the pictures. If there was a beach, Brezhnev and Gerik probably didn't talk on it. If they did, they probably wouldn't have been wearing, on a beach in July, those hats and suits and lace-up shoes that you get for being a communist leader. They were, after all, supposed to be on holiday. And even if you got the look of it right, they probably didn't talk like Pravda editorials. Because if you're the boss of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and if you've got 20 armored divisions in East Germany, and if your supply lines have to go across Poland, and the Polish railway workers are on strike, you don't say, I'm deeply concerned about departures from Leninist norms. You probably say,
What the hell's going on with you guys? Who's running the country, eh? You or the engine drivers? Your workforce has got you by the short hairs because you're up to your neck in hock to German bankers, American bankers, Swiss bankers. You're in hock to us to the tune of, is it millions or billions?
Zillions.
Zillions of rubles.
Zlotys.
You shut up!
who knows? All the same, there was something going on which remains true, even when the words and pictures are mostly made up. Between August of 1980 and December of 1981, an attempt was made in Poland to put together two ideas which wouldn't fit. The idea of freedom as it's understood in the West, and the idea of socialism as it's understood in the Soviet Empire. The attempt failed because it was impossible, in the same sense as it's impossible in geometry to turn a circle into a square with the same area. Not because no one's found out how to do it, but because there's no way in which it can be done. Now, what happened in Poland was a number of people tried for 16 months to change the shape of a system without changing the area covered by the original shape. They failed. On August the 14th, while Edward Gerich was at the Black Sea with Leonid Brezhnev, the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk went on strike. Gerich flew home the next day.
Welcome home, comrade. I'm sorry you had to cut short your holiday.
Careful with that.
Comrade Kanya has been to Gdansk.
Why?
Why? Because the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk is at a complete standstill. The party secretary up there telephoned yesterday in a panic.
I know that. Do we have to have a member of the Politburo rushing to the scene whenever there's a disruption of working norms?
You sent Jagielski to settle the railway strike.
The railway disruption of working norms was different.
Kanya says this one is different.
How much are they asking for?
2,000 zlotys a month. It's not the money that worries us.
It should. It's the money we haven't got.
Here we come.
Welcome, Comrade.
Not now. After you, Comrade First Secretary.
Thank you, Comrade Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister is, of course, the head of the government. Today, and for several days to come, his name is Mr. Babiuk.
I brought you some caviar.
Apart from having a prime minister, Poland has elections, a parliament, and a head of state, much like Britain or France or America. This is where it all gets different from bourgeois Western democracy. In the East, they have the window dressing, but the shop is run by the party. Through nominees and controlled elections, the party dominates parliament and manages the machinery of state, and thus is in a position to fulfill its sacred trust of defending the interests of the working people.
I brought you some caviar.
With limousines and caviar.
A cheap shot, in my opinion. These people are not doormen. They are people with big responsibilities.
Just making an observation.
It's not a factor. I never saw the President of France arrive anywhere on a bicycle eating a salami sandwich. And another thing. It's not zlotys, it's złotys.
Excuse me. It works like this. The party Congress, about 2,000 delegates who meet every 5 years, not counting emergencies, elects a central committee of about 200 members who meet as and when to supervise party policy. To implement that policy, the Central Committee elects an executive elite, the Political Bureau. This is not a meeting of the government. This is the Politburo.
Comrade Kanya?
At Gdansk, in the Lenin shipyard, they demand, number one, a wage increase of 2,000 zlotys a month. Number two, reinstatement of sacked troublemakers. Number three, family allowances increased to the same level enjoyed by police and security forces. Number four, earlier retirement. Number five, a monument outside the main gate.
A monument?
Yes, to the dead of 1970. The strike spokesman is obsessed with putting up a monument. The shipyard director tried to settle for a plaque in the dining hall, but he insists on a monument. 40 meters high.
Is he mad? That's an idea.
No.
Who is he?
Wałęsa. You've met him.
When?
10 years ago, after the 1970 riots, he went to talk to the workers in the Baltic ports.
Yes.
At Gdansk, you met a three-man delegation. Wałęsa was one of them. Moustache. He didn't speak. You remember him?
No.
Huh. I think they'd settle for the money and the reinstatements. Enough of them would, anyway.
There's already more money than there are goods to spend it on. The situation's inflationary, and would be more so if we didn't keep food cheap artificially. Such subsidies are costing us 300 billion zlotys a year. As a matter of fact, the same money would pay interest to Western bankers this year.
We cannot give way on the money. It buys nothing.
It buys time.
Are you an economist?
I've been to Gdansk.
Send in the police, state security.
There's no public disorder.
A strike is a public disorder. In fact, it's illegal. If the police can't handle it, send in the army.
To do what? I said in 1970 that I wouldn't order Polish soldiers to shoot Polish workers.
But they did shoot, the police and the army, and the strikers went back to work.
Not all of them.
All of them.
Not the ones who were dead.
The Minister of Defense is quite right. We must not repeat December 1970. Even then, the men in the shipyards did not go back to work until I went to talk to them. January 1971. The bloodstains were still on the streets. I'd been first secretary for 1 month. The pickets on the gates didn't recognize me. I had to tell them who I was. Not surprising. When did the party leader ever debate with the workers face to face on their own ground? And we talked. I told them I'd worked in the mines in Belgium and France with these hands. I said to them, help us. Help me, I'm a worker. We can start again. I told them there was going to be a new spirit, a new Poland, a rich Poland. Then the poison got back into the system. What does one do?
We've cut the phone lines from Gdansk.
No, the time has come to be frank. We must tell the country what's going on.
Everybody listens to the foreign radio stations. They know what's going on.
If they know, then we can afford to be frank.
And, of course, we must accept some blame. On the radio and television tonight.
Will you do it?
Me? No. You're the Prime Minister.
The public has not been given sufficient information about our troubles, about the state of the economy, and the growing problems as and when they occurred. We have not prepared ourselves sufficiently for the difficult
What do we
times
do if
which
it doesn't
should
work?
mean as
We
inevitable.
could try another Prime Minister.
Today, not everyone realizes what our country's economic situation is like. Stopping work not only harms the national economy, it also
Seriously,
turns
we're going to have to make them an
the
offer.
working class and
How much?
working people in general,
1,500,
damaging
reinstatement
their
of the troublemakers, and the monument.
of People's Poland are trying
Will
to
they
use
settle?
the atmosphere
Yes.
of tension and emotion for their own
All right.
political ends, putting forward
I'm going
slogans
home.
and suggestions which have nothing
I don't
in
want to be
common
called
with
except in
the
an emergency.
aspirations of the working class.
This is for Comrade Brezhnev.
We have reliable allies who also worry about our troubles and believe that we will be able to overcome them ourselves. They wish us success from the bottom of their hearts.
Poland's reliable ally, her neighbor to the east, had been a watchful and threatening presence since 1945.
1700.
1700.
All right, 1720, but no later. You won't understand Poland's attitude to Russia until you understand some Polish history. This won't take long.
I hope not.
Nobody except Poles remembers that for 300 years, this country was the biggest and freest country in Middle Europe, spanning the continent from the Baltic almost down to the Black Sea and reaching hundreds of miles east into modern Russia. Russia's greatness came after Poland's and was achieved at Poland's expense. During the 18th century, Poland came under Russian domination. This alarmed the other great powers, Austria and Prussia. So Catherine the Great gave each of them a bit of Poland to keep them quiet. 1772. This was the first of 3 partitions which were to dismember the country by the end of the century. By the standards of the time, Poland had a liberal tradition, but squeezed now between 3 emperors. So Russia and Prussia decided to cut Poland down to size. Poland, or what was left of it, rebelled, and in 1795, the 3 power blocks finished the job. For 100 years after that, Poland remained mainly an idea kept alive by an underground at home and by emigres abroad. It was the period of romantic exiles.
Oh, yes, yes. Handsome young men in lace cuffs playing the piano in Paris. I wondered.
They were waiting for a miracle, and in 1918, that miracle happened with the simultaneous collapse of the Russian, German, and Austrian empires. The victors met at Versailles and put Poland back on the map. Poland survived until the Nazi-Soviet Pact of 1939. The thieves fell out, Hitler lost, and when the Allies met at Yalta to carve up the map, Roosevelt and Churchill Let Stalin keep his pride. That's the true picture, except for the bread rolls. You won't find a basket of bread rolls put out on a cafe table in Poland.
You told me they would settle.
It was in the balance. The majority of the shipyard voted to end the strike, but they were swung back by a radical element.
Reactionary? You mean a reactionary element?
The shipyard swung back to keep solidarity with the places still on strike.
Solidarity?
I said this one was not like the others. We're not dealing with a shipyard now, but a committee representing 150 plants and factories.
Scum want to set up an independent trade union. They demand abolition of censorship, access to the media. It's not a strike, it's a bloody mutiny.
It's clear that the official trade unions have lost touch with the aspirations of their membership and forfeited their trust.
What kind of language is that?
You've let us down, comrade. Independent unions are, of course, out of the question. But reform, yes. A reform of the official unions. Now I'll have to talk to them.
Do you want me to come with you?
No. On TV. It's my turn. Any actions which strike at the foundations of the political and social order in Poland cannot and will not be tolerated. I would like to say as frankly as I can that we are aware that quite apart from many objective factors, mistakes in economic policy have played an important part. We understand the working people's tiredness and impatience with the troubles of everyday life, the shortages, the queues.
I think I've seen this before. Typical bloody August. Nothing but repeats.
For the better. Together, we must find another one.
And cut.
Good. Very good. By the way, how did you like the bookcase?
Nice. Very nice.
Edward, do things look bad?
For you mean?
For me? Why for me? Try and come out this weekend. Relax a little.
How many cars do you have, Mache?
Cars? I don't know. Who's counting?
Kanya.
Chania? Huh? What does he make it?
18.
18? Well, comrade, you know, as the chairman of the State Committee for Radio and TV, one has to get about.
How many houses? An airplane? A yacht? And a health club staffed by young women with unusual qualifications. Yes, Kanya has a file on you.
That's his job.
Yeah, and he undoubtedly has a file on me, too. How much was that little object you presented me with on my 65th birthday?
Well, it was gold. All right. Who built your country house? 23 million zlotys. We serve the party rewards us. What do you say, Edvard?
Attempts by irresponsible individuals and anarchic anti-socialist groups to use stoppages for political ends and to incite tension.
I think he's talking about you, Jacek. Jacek Kuran, who now joins the story, had a strategy for freedom in a communist state. Pay lip service to party rule, but organize into self-help groups, like unions.
Lock him up.
Back in the 60s, Kuran was a radical Marxist, calling for a revolutionary workers' state. The Polish United Workers' Party did not appreciate him and put him in jail.
Now I'm rehabilitated. I'm a middle-aged conservative maverick. But a middle-aged conservative maverick who's still followed by the police.
In fact, the Polish intellectuals played no part in the rebellion of 1970, which brought Edvard Gerek to power. But in '76, when Gerek had to survive the first rebellion of his own, Kuran and others, shocked by the brutal police repressions, formed the Workers' Defense Committee.
The Workers' Defense Committee was formed out of shame. When you get to Gdansk, tell them that this time, we won't just lead them to it. This thing could be amazing. Workers' power, economic power. Not a rebellion, but a social force. No blood in the streets. That belongs to history.
You think so?
Don't you?
History's my subject.
Kuran and 14 others were arrested on August 20th. To Gerek, the subversive influence of the intellectual mavericks was the single most important factor underlying the Polish crisis.
Horse manure.
What is?
Kuron and his friends have been overtaken by events. They're still trying to catch up.
Then why arrest them?
Dirac has got to arrest someone. Every day, Brezhnev wants to know what's being done. Every day, the answer is nothing. Worse than nothing. Negotiations instead of breaking heads. So Dirac arrests a few intellectuals. The Russians understand that. They've read Marx. Dirac knows it's irrelevant.
Then why doesn't he arrest the strikers instead?
Can't afford to.
You mean he's scared? Or broke?
Try the money.
Meanwhile, the economic situation was the single most important factor underlying the Polish crisis.
That's the one.
Edvard Gierek intended to go down in history as the man who turned Poland into a modern industrial nation. For a while, it worked. Life became freer and richer. The relaxation lasted a couple of years. The money lasted longer, but it was all borrowed. $2 billion in 1971, $12 billion by the middle of the decade, from the West alone. The idea was that the money would be turned into tractors, color TVs, Polish Fiats, and then back into money. But almost everything Polish, except what came out of the ground, had a Western component, which had to be paid for in hard currency to keep the expensive new factories in production. And with the oil crisis of 1973, those prices went up, and so more money had to be borrowed. Until Polish industry was working just to pay the interest on a debt, which by 1980 had topped $20 billion.
Minister, we represent more than 400 banks from 16 countries. To service your debt requires 95% of your export revenue.
American banks are badly exposed, $1.7 billion. Just the commercial banks, quite apart from $1 billion in credits from my government.
American banks are lending the same to Peru.
Yes, and 10 times as much to Brazil. But these countries are members of the International Monetary Fund, so the money does not come without strings. We're in a position to insist on certain controls. In your case, we have no control.
Your exports are being hit now with these strikes.
These strikes are in response to price increases, which we were left in no doubt would be welcome to you, gentlemen, when we began these present negotiations.
Well, isn't that something? If Poland goes down the drain, it'll be the fault of Uncle Sam.
Would enable us to refinance.
In the Lenin shipyard, there's a strike committee representing 388 places of work. Yes, we tried to split them with separate deals. They weren't having that. There are 25,000 on strike in Szczecin now. You'll find a strike committee waiting to negotiate.
Kanya says in Gdansk they have a list of 16 demands.
21. Well, when they add the moon, it'll be 22.
Is that what we promised them?
Just end the strike. You did it in July with the railway workers. You can do it with the shipyard.
In Szczecin, they make 36 demands, beginning with free independent parties.
You mean unions?
No, parties, political parties.
This is becoming grotesque.
I told them I come to discuss the workers' grievances, not an overthrow of the political system. They accepted my point.
Good.
They also told me that the first grievance is that the official union does not represent the workers' interest. The demand for free unions is central, absolutely central. The workers' spokesman in Szczecin is a veteran of 1970, Marian Jurczyk. He's a strong Catholic. He also demands that Sunday Mass is broadcast on the state radio. He's strong, very quiet, hard. Now, when I arrived, he did not even return my greeting. He said, "These are our conditions." The atmosphere is sober, unrelenting. No journalists, no cameras.
I tell you, Gdansk is a circus. Negotiations are in a room with a glass wall. On the other side of the glass, hundreds of people. It's not a circus, it's a zoo. Scores of photographers. Every word that we speak is broadcast all over the shipyard. Walesa does most of their talking. He's friendly. He's no intellectual, but he's sharp. He's got the workers behind him like a football hero.
The situation is very strange. Some of these are our own people, party members. You understand me, Comrade First Secretary. The party itself is unstable.
A crisis meeting of the Central Committee made a dramatic show of cleaning out the stables. 4 members of the Politburo were sacked. And there was a simultaneous purge of party men in high government posts. including the chairman of the State Committee for Radio and Television. Gehrig was spared, confessing to
errors, inconsistencies, delays, and hesitations. We owe an apology to those comrades who pointed out irregularities and who tried to do something about them.
Come on, Matchek. The party's in full swing.
No!
It's over. Good night.
Okay, thank you, fellas. It's a wrap.
The single most important factor underlying Poland's independence was, needless to say,
The church.
the church.
Church? Lech Walesa wears the Black Madonna of Częstochowa on his coat. The years of terror discredited the political guardians of the nation-state, and the moral leadership fell to the church. For the last 32 years, this has meant to Cardinal Wyszynski.
Imprisoned and conciliated from the first years of Stalinist terror to the last years of Gehrig's ramshackle version of the consumer society, Cardinal Wyszynski had been the spiritual leader of a people who, by the irony of history, constituted the most vital Catholic nation in Europe.
Father, there will be blood. They won't listen. They will lose everything. You must talk to them before it's too late.
The Politburo?
The workers, the strikers, they demand things which can't be given.
They demand nothing which is not their right. It is you who must listen, or there will be blood. You will lose everything.
No, the Russians will intervene if we don't go back. Look, you must save us. Save the church.
The church needs to be defended sometimes, but it does not need to be saved.
Then save Poland.
How is he?
Better than I have seen him for a long time.
His nerve's gone.
If you like.
Can you help?
The church never resists an appeal. I will preach on Tuesday. It is the feast of the Black Madonna of Częstochowa, and I will speak as I must for the rights of workers.
These strikes harm the nation. We can't fulfill every demand at once.
I will speak the whole truth.
How many will hear you?
My voice carries.
With your permission, I'll assist it with television cameras.
Not with my permission.
We're no longer talking about the Baltic ports. There are strikes in Wrocław, in Warsaw, in the steelworks, in the mines of Silesia.
What about the army?
Welcome, Comrade Ossowski. Welcome, Comrade Ossowski.
Welcome back.
Congratulations on your re-election. How is Berlin?
The Germans think we're too soft. If we don't act now, with troops if necessary, we deserve what we get.
Yes, but not yet.
When?
When there is no alternative.
When is that?
I don't know, but I'll tell you.
Next week, next year?
It depends on them. We must give them what they demand, and then it depends on them. Well, they'll bring us to it, slowly or quickly, but we'll get there, I give you my guarantee.
Comrade First Secretary.
Comrade Jagielski, go back to Gdansk and sign.
Jagielski and Lech Walesa signed the Gdansk Agreement on August 31st. The impossible had taken 16 days. The inevitable would take 16 months.
Every year, the Schmidts, the Mullers, and the Reinhardts drive to their holiday villas. The Schmidts' car is slow.
The piece of paper signed in Gdansk did much more than guarantee an independent trade union. It spelled out the right to strike, freedom of expression, the broadcasting of mass, medical, housing, and welfare benefits, pensions, and the freeing of political prisoners.
Hey, Kuron! Is it just the bloody intelligentsia who've been let out? I've redistributed more property than you'll ever see. Jacek.
Kuron went straight to Gdansk. For 2 decades, the drama of his intellectual life had been the attempt to square the communist circle inside the cornerstones of democratic socialism. Now the show had started without him.
Look this way,
What are you going to do next?
Eat dinner. What is your dream? For Poland to be Poland. What does that take? To eat dinner. No, to say what we want, to come and go as we please.
Are you a Marxist?
How do I know? I've never read a book.
What is your badge?
The Black Madonna Czechova. The holy shrine in Poland. Here, I have a picture of her.
What is your main task?
To keep the movement together.
Why are you the leader? This way, Lech. Look this way,
I'm the
Lech.
chairman. I'm not a dictator. Maybe a democratic dictator.
What do you want to be?
When I was an electrician, I wanted to be the best.
What is the first thing the union has to do?
Survive.
Which is the greatest danger, Russia or the party?
Neither.
You think the Russians will invade?
Our greatest danger is ourselves. We must learn restraint and patience, or we'll tear ourselves apart.
Do you want to overthrow the party?
No. I want the party to be strong and to be just. A weak party would be disastrous. I would have to join it.
But isn't a union a challenge to the party?
The workers challenge themselves. They let themselves down.
You want to go to America?
I want to go everywhere. And with Mother Mary on my coat, I will.
Lech, is that your daughter?
And now I want to go home.
Hold it there, sir.
I want to be the best also as a husband and father. Also as a lover! I have 6 children, and my wife will never forgive me for getting mixed up in this. I shall have to give her a 7.
How did you meet your wife?
Lech, are you scared?
I'm scared of nothing and nobody. Thank you. Only God. What have you been doing?
What time did you leave? Are you going on? Did you say where he's going? This way.
Ah, here he comes now.
Where have you been this morning?
Are you happy with everything?
Everyone knew that Lech was special. Pretty soon the outside world learned not to call him Walesa or Walesa, but Wałęsa. The names and faces multiplied, and there were many more than these. But it sorts itself out like this. The intellectuals who formed themselves around the Union as unofficial advisors included Kuron, Geremek, the historian, Mazowiecki, a radical Catholic journalist,
Mojolewski.
and Mojolewski, who had gone to jail with Kuron in 1967, when the two of them, both radical communists and lecturers at Warsaw University, had written an open letter attacking party rule. Mazowiecki became Solidarity's press spokesman.
Jurczyk.
Jurczyk, a storeman, led the strikers at Szczecin.
Gwiazda.
Gwiazda was the man perhaps closest to Wałęsa, allowing for simple demarcations, Gwiazda and Rulewski, who led one of the regional branches of the Union, were the radicals who were to come into conflict with Wałęsa's more moderate line. Lis personified one of the paradoxes of the situation, for he was a member of the Communist Party.
Bujak.
Bujak was the Union's leader in Warsaw. And there were others like these whose names the outside world never did get right, because the personality cult grew sensationally around a 37-year-old electrician whose combative, streetwise style had marked him out long before he climbed over the steel fence of the Lenin shipyard and found himself famous. In months to come, he'd be on scores of magazine covers and travel as far as Japan, meeting the great. It caused some resentment inside Solidarity, but that was later.
Jacek, they let you out. Do you want to make a speech?
No! It's your revolution! You tell us what you want us to do!
Look at this. It's going to be 40 meters high, outside the gate.
We used to show up there every Christmas with stones in our suitcases. We'd build a little monument, and the police would kick it over and take us away. They won't kick this over in a hurry. I said we'd have a monument. Now I say we'll have 10 million members.
We have to make an organization. Suddenly everybody has a free union. All over the country they're saying we'll have the same as Gdansk. Thank you very much. I don't know. Maybe there should be no centralization. Just separate unions.
No, you have to be national. Otherwise the party will pick you off piece by piece.
Yes, yes. You're right. We have to act as one.
You mean, if we want to strike in Warsaw, we have to come to Gdansk for permission?
Yes, definitely.
What are we going to be? An alternative bureaucracy? A Politburo?
How we use our authority is up to us. If we are fair, then we will use it fairly. For the good of all.
Yeah, that's party language, Lech.
No, it's the language of democracy, stolen by the party. We are a workers' movement, not a mob. Local strikes must have a majority at factory level first, and then they must be ratified by a majority at the National Commission in Gdansk.
What is this Gdansk, huh? We had a strike in Szczecin. We also had a member of the Politburo on his knees. We also signed an agreement. We had everything you had except foreign journalists. And you should have told them to mind their own business like we did.
I don't care if the National Commission meets in different places. It can meet in a hot air balloon for all I care.
Oh, don't say that. The damn thing will never come down.
All right. We don't even exist yet, legally. All we have is a name. We're taking the name on the strike bulletin we published in the yard.
Solidarity.
We'll have legal registration in a few weeks. The statutes are being drawn up now by our legal experts. You see, intellectuals have their uses, although we did have trouble with them at first. They kept putting the word socialist into the manifestos, and the workers kept taking it out.
Yes, well, we didn't know that you were thinking of changing the political system.
We aren't. We don't want to govern. We don't want to be a threat.
What are you talking about? We are a threat. Look, we're dealing with gangsters.
We're a union, that's all.
Do you believe that?
If we don't believe it, how can they? We are not political.
Most of our demands are political. What's the most important thing we've gained?
The broadcasting of mass.
Jesus, God.
Please, don't blaspheme.
Abolition of censorship. The right to strike. Free elections for the union. No more party hacks holding down jobs they don't know how to do. Free trade unions are political.
He's right.
And we're going to have to fight just to keep what we've won. Even to get what we've won.
Is he right?
I said it was a revolution. Now, the trick is to make it a self-limiting revolution. The party must keep the leading role.
I'm still a party member.
And with a union controlled by the party, there's no problem. But an uncontrolled union reverses the current of power. The party won't forgive. Oh, it'll give up ground and take its time. But in the end, they still have the police and the security forces, so go slowly. You can win little by little. But remember, if you lose, you will lose overnight. Like that.
What we have witnessed in Gdansk, comrades, is an attack on the state, organized by anarchists and anti-socialist groups.
That is not true. These are genuine grievances. There is a failure in the party, and it is at the top of the party.
This was Parliament, 5 days after the Gdansk signing. The usual ventriloquist act had fallen apart.
We have become
The dummy had come to life.
for a party leadership which has lost its way. We are a sham society built on propaganda which has become a joke. We have sham planning, sham achievements in industry and science, sham debate.
The other odd thing was that the first secretary, Edvard Gerich, was missing.
Gerich's had a heart attack. The Central Committee is meeting tonight. We'll have a new first secretary by the morning.
Shh! Does Stefan have hopes?
Quiet! I can't hear a thing!
Stefan Olszewski had been in the Politburo before, until a disagreement over Gerich's economic policy shunted him into the ambassador's job in East Berlin. Now the Central Committee had brought him back in from the cold. There was a hard line in the party, and Olszewski spoke for it. But the Central Committee did not advance Stefan Olszewski. It was not the right moment to attack from the left.
Why is it always chess?
Well, it symbolizes,
These ones with the horses' heads. Are these the ones which can jump over things?
You're ruining it.
Sorry.
The mood was for renewal, reform. Nothing too liberal, but no conservative backlash. A middle-of-the-road apparatchik with a tough background in security, but with nothing of the zealot about him would do. Kanya had the job by 2 a.m.
Dear Kanya, get things back to normal, or we'll be down on you like a ton of bricks.
Read that back.
Dear Comrade Kanya, the working people of the Soviet Union know you as a staunch champion of the people's true interests, the ideals of communism, the strengthening of the leading role of the party, and the consolidation of socialism in the Polish People's Republic.
That's my chair.
They knew you as a
But
man
Kanya
who
pledged
stands
himself to the
firm
spirit of
on the
Gdansk,
inviolable
at least in his
principles
first public statement.
The party will reform itself, workers will work, the citizens will have more freedom, the newspapers will report the facts, radio will broadcast mass, the hacks will be sacked, corruption will be stamped out, and Poland will be in charge of her own destiny throughout. It's all going to be all right.
Now, the private statement.
The Soviet Union supplies us with all our crude oil, potash, and iron ore, and 80% of our natural gas and our timber. The August strikes have cost us zillions of zlotys, and they aren't finished. All over the place, workers have caught the Gdansk disease. And all over the place, the fat cats of the party apparatus and the old union are digging in against what they call an anti-socialist sellout. It's not going to be a picnic.
The wheel of reform was moving so slowly that to give it a shove, the union announced a token one-day strike for October 3rd. With a week to go, the Solidarity leadership went to Warsaw to apply for legal registration.
Comrade Walesa.
Congratulations, Comrade First Secretary, on your elevation.
Likewise. Please, sit down, comrade. Comrade Walesa, when I was elected First Secretary, I told the Central Committee I intended to use the collective wisdom of the people. A strike is not the act of wisdom.
A stoppage for 1 hour.
But 1 million people, even for 1 hour, is a provocative symbol to our allies.
It's going to be 3 million, Comrade First Secretary.
I'm trying to help you, but I have suspicious and angry people behind me.
That is my position also.
The proletariat cannot dictate to the party what... In the dictatorship of the proletariat, the party must have the leading role.
We accept that.
But you haven't said so in the legal statutes which have been deposited with the Warsaw Provincial Court.
We haven't said so because we are not a political organization. The leading role of the party has nothing to do with us.
The leading role of the party is to do with everybody.
To acknowledge it in the statutes would be a political act.
To refuse to acknowledge it is a political act.
The independence of the Free Trade Union Solidarity is not negotiable. We are waiting the decision of the court. Then we will know if this game is honest.
the registration of the independent trade union Solidarity is allowed. But the statutes of the union are modified to include the acknowledgement of the leading role of the party.
The court has no power to alter the statutes.
Now will you believe me? We're dealing with gangsters.
The Walesa mob is calling a general strike.
Rub them out.
There's 3 million of them.
4 million, boss.
Shut up.
It was the wrong time to pull a stunt like that.
What's all this gangster stuff?
It's a metaphor.
Wrong.
You people.
It was the wrong time for a confrontation.
You haven't had Comrade Brezhnev shouting down the phone.
Comrade Brezhnev only demands stability. Throw the dogs a few bones, Leave the statutes of the Union as they are and put whatever you want into an appendix. For when Sir will help us if we help him. When the time comes...
And so the government backed off. Solidarity was made legal. And mass was on the radio. The regime lost face, but stood to gain a period of calm, so long as the moderate men on either side were in control. The calm lasted 9 days.
On whose orders?
Jesus and Mary.
They broke into the Solidarity office in Warsaw and found what they say is a secret document. They've arrested our printer, also a clerk who works in the prosecutor's office. They claim he leaked the document to us. Warsaw Solidarity has called a strike of the entire region if both men are not released.
Excuse me, a strike is not called by a regional office. Only by the National Commission of the Union.
Then you'd better call it. Workers already stopped at Ursa's tractors. What's more, we're demanding, as a condition of calling off the strike, an investigation into the methods of the prosecutor's office and of the security police. We're demanding cuts in the police budget and also the punishment of those who committed the police brutalities in 70 and 76.
I agree.
For 2 arrested men. And what do we hit them with when the stakes get higher?
Comrade Prosecutor, are we to have a confrontation with 1 million workers over a miserable document?
It is a classified document. A secret circular prepared by myself on the organization of anti-socialist groups. Furthermore, it is a stolen document. We have a very good case for prosecution.
The document contains nothing of importance. I've said on behalf of the party in public that we offer Solidarity coexistence. These arrests merely make me look like a liar.
These demands against the security police, they cannot be made in the name of the Union. We are a non-political organization. It was a pledge. Do you want to ruin everything?
It's very simple. We demanded the release of the 2 men. The government has delivered them. We have to deliver an end to the strike.
Our demands have not been satisfied.
Your demands did not have the sanction of Gdansk.
We're not in Gdansk, we're in Warsaw. Furthermore, our region is much bigger than the Gdansk region.
My friend, there's another reality beyond the immediate issue.
Who's he?
I'm Yatsek Kuron.
You're not a worker.
Look, this is not an argument between you and the police. It's an argument between millions of Poles and the regime.
No, it is between us and the police. In 76, when the government raised prices, we went on strike. And we won. They caved in. Afterwards, the police made us run the gauntlet of truncheons. We were beaten unconscious. Our bones were smashed. Who was ever punished for those crimes?
Okay. What can I say?
You don't have to talk to these men about the police. They've been in prisons. The government has agreed to talk about the responsibility of the police.
They'll say anything in private.
The talks on police were announced on television tonight.
Talks is not what we asked for. They guarantee nothing.
I am your guarantee. We are your guarantee.
There are people who think that the party boss can run the operation like a Chicago gangster.
I should try sitting in this chair. I've got a party which is losing members in droves, and half of those who remain have joined a free trade union with 5 million members. 7 million? 7 million with the right to strike for more money, which I haven't got, because industrial production is down 12% owing to the strikes. So I have to go cap in hand to the Russians, who are giving us $690 million in credits to keep Poland communist, and to the United States, who are giving us $550 million for the same reason. I've got a rank and file which wants to know when I'm going to reform the middle apparatus, and a middle apparatus which wants to know when I'm going to stop the rot in the rank and file, and a leadership which is waiting to see which way the cattle jump. I've got a Catholic Church which doesn't want me to provoke the Russians, and a Communist Party, 2/3 of whom believe in God. And to top it all off, I've got a police force which can't break the habit, and a public prosecutor with the political nous of a bull in a china shop. As first secretary of the Polish United Workers' Party, Al Capone wouldn't have lasted out the week.
His Excellency, the Soviet ambassador, is here.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning, comrade. You're looking tired.
How can I help you, Ambassador?
Comrade Brezhnev is taking a very close interest in events here.
Naturally, we're very grateful for his interest.
The situation is interesting. The Warsaw strike, the general strike, which is due to begin in 4 hours.
There are no strikes in Warsaw this morning. There'll be no general strike either.
That is very good news. It is very important to us that the party does not show weakness.
Quite so.
And your 2 prisoners?
Prisoners?
The saboteurs who were arrested a week ago.
You've been misinformed, Ambassador. 2 men were detained on suspicion, but the suspicions proved unfounded. The men were released very early this morning.
I see. Comrade Brezhnev wishes to inform you that a meeting of the leaders of the Warsaw Pact will take place in Moscow in 8 days' time. Comrade Brezhnev asked me to convey his fraternal greetings and looks forward to seeing you on December the 5th.
I'll have to cancel a lunch.
Item, a blatant attack on the person of the regional party chairman. Item, a blatant attack on the office of public prosecutor. Item, a blatant attack on the principle of peasant collectives. And so it goes on. These publications, openly printed and distributed by Solidarity...
You know, we had our very own Soviet Free Trade Union. I forget his name. He's in a lunatic asylum now, poor fellow.
Filth like this, then you are free to assume that we objectively agree with it.
A communist party that cannot defend itself is no damn use. And that is a problem. If it cannot defend itself, it must be defended.
During these December days, reservists were called up in the Baltic Soviet republics. Soviet troops camped under canvas on the Polish border, and Soviet warships were visible from the coast. The United States intelligence announced that Russian invasion plans were complete.
Well, I don't know what all this is doing to the Poles, but it's scaring the hell out of the Americans.
We can deal with our own problems, Marshal.
We all hope so, Wojciech.
On December 16th, the rulers and the ruled gathered to inaugurate the Gdansk Memorial to the dead of 1970. The Solidarity banners had been consecrated by an archbishop. There was an army general, an admiral, a deputy member of the Politburo, a minister of the government, and the head of state, the aging Professor Yablonsky. There were diplomats of many foreign lands. There were 150,000 people gathered outside the Lenin shipyards. Lech Walesa, unknown 6 months before, was now the leader of a union of 10 million workers. It was the first time in a communist country that a government had erected a memorial to the workers who had rebelled against the state. The first secretary of the Polish United Workers' Party and the Soviet ambassador did not attend. the middle of January, Lech Walesa went to Rome. And according to Prague radio, he got his instructions straight from the Pope.
Yes, Father. Use the Gdansk agreement as a platform.
Solidarity was, in fact, in endless dispute with the government, which seemed unable or unwilling to concede what had been agreed in Gdansk. The government had backtracked on the 5-day week, access to the media, censorship, and the right of private farmers to set up a rural solidarity of their own. There were strikes and sit-ins all over the country. The National Commission tried to tidy all this up by calling for a 1-hour general strike, while ordering an end to local strikes. But the second part of that had no effect. The country seemed bemused and helpless in the face of all these demands. As always, there was a Polish joke for the occasion.
I move that from now on, we only work on Tuesdays. Yeah! Do you mean every Tuesday?
Walesa went into a 12-hour meeting with the Prime Minister, who at this time, and for several days to come, was called Mr. Pinkowski. They reached an agreement which pleased neither side. On February 9th, Pinkowski was replaced. In Poland, such a change was normally cosmetic, but this time it looked different. The new Prime Minister liked to make unannounced visits, sometimes to shops.
And how is the food distribution?
It's working very well, comrade.
Good. Good.
Jaruzelski began by asking for a 3-month suspension of strike action for, as he put it, 90 peaceful days. He got 38. This was the first violence. It did more than break the peace. For a moment, it broke the illusion. The game was crooked.
Wisdom. Not vengeance. Wisdom.
Just a bit.
Yes. I heard you had a priest now.
Yeah. How are you feeling? No. You talk. A warning strike within a week. A general strike soon after if we don't get satisfaction.
Somebody ordered it. It was an attack on solidarity by the government.
No. It was an attack on the government's agreement with solidarity. That's the best way to play it. We'll announce a strike in support of the government of General Jaruzelski.
Jaruzelski's first appointment was to make Mieczysław Rykowski Deputy Prime Minister with special responsibility for the unions.
Tell him not to do us any favors.
From now on, Rykowski, the editor of an influential political weekly, was going to do most of the talking to Solidarity.
While we're here, the armies of the Warsaw Pact are conducting exercises on Polish soil. Your warning strike was the greatest disruption of work in the history of this country. I mean, in the history of the Polish People's Republic. If the general strike goes ahead, we could end up with Soviet tanks lined up in the square outside.
You played the Russian card too many times.
Blood has been spilled. 27 citizens of the Polish People's Republic who were not breaking any law have been injured in an assault by the state police in the city of Bydgoszcz. 3 of them are in hospital. Does this have your approval?
There'll be an investigation, of course.
Another card.
We'll punish those responsible for the assault. You have my guarantee. But the strike must be called off.
It's not my decision, but your offer is not enough.
All right. We also guarantee that the question of the Farmers' Union will be examined by a parliamentary commission. And you know what that means with this parliament. It'll only be a matter of time. But we can't move faster than the party lets us. You understand? The party must take the leading role. That is communism.
And independent unions? Is that communism?
Don't underestimate Polish communism. We've got less than 24 hours before the strike goes ahead and all this is put at risk. What are you going to do?
No.
We've got most of what we wanted.
It's not up to us. The National Commission decided on the strike. If it's to be called off, the National Commission has to meet to vote on it.
There isn't time for that. We have to make an executive decision.
You mean your decision? This whole business has been about as democratic as a pharaoh's court. You're taking too much upon yourself, Lech.
Nobody wants this strike. Do you want it?
I don't want the strike. I don't want anything to do with this decision. We went to a lot of trouble to create a democratic union. This is getting to be Wałęsa's circus. I'm going back to Wrocław, teach my students about democracy. You can get yourself another press officer.
You're making a dogma out of procedure. Right and wrong is more important. A strike now would be wrong, and there isn't time. I'm putting it to the vote of the Presidium. Let it be on my head. When the National Commission has time to meet, they can have it on a platter.
Right. I resign. How about you?
You can only resign once, Andrzej.
They've split us.
We've split them.
Well done.
That's it. Get them at each other's throats.
Try the other one.
We've split them.
This is bad. How can we control them if they're at each other's throats all the time?
I don't understand who's winning or who's being split.
Is that it?
These people aren't smart. They're party bosses.
They've split us.
That's the one.
In Torun, there's a big party meeting, which we haven't sanctioned, which wants to speed up reform. In Katowice, there's another meeting, which thinks Stalin is alive and well and is practically begging the Soviets to come in and save communism. I'm getting hundreds of complaints from the rank and file. People want to know why we haven't punished the police who did the beating up. They want to know why we haven't expelled more party members for bribery and theft, although we've expelled thousands. They demand an emergency party congress, and I can't stop it. They'll elect to the Congress hundreds of people we can't rely on. On the grassroots of the party, there are meetings between workers from different factories, different cities. Lenin called it the sin of horizontalism. He organized the party on vertical lines, controlled from top to bottom. And that is why I'm getting demands for secret voting for the Congress, unlimited candidates, limited terms of office, accountability to the base instead of to the leadership. How long do you think will last if that happens? How long do you think Comrade Brezhnev and his colleagues would last if it started to spread?
Dear lads, let me spell it out for you. You were elected by the last party congress under Gehrig. And quite obviously you are going to be out on your neck when the next party congress meets 4 weeks from now. So this is your last chance. When Kania and Jaruzelski were here in December, they kept agreeing with me. But ever since then, they have let the party drift into open democracy. Make that bourgeois democracy. And look what happened to the Czechs just before they had their emergency congress in '68. Say no more.
This letter is an invitation to the Central Committee to change its leadership. Brezhnev has lost faith in the Polish party. And can you blame him when even the Soviet war memorials in Warsaw are being defaced?
The memorials are being defaced by provocateurs. I've offered to scrub them myself with my own hands, on TV if they like. As a union, we take no position on Russia.
You take every position, including that one up there. You started something which you can't stop. You want a self-limiting revolution. It's like trying to limit influenza.
Yeah, it's those bloody workers. You give us freedom of choice, and we choose freedom. What I want to know is, how did you get to be called the intellectuals?
Well, what's the latest?
No change.
No, I mean him.
Which first, sir?
Afghanistan. No, Poland. Central Committee, reaction to my letter.
A strong attack on Kanya's leadership in the Central Committee and calls for his resignation.
And they think I'm losing my touch?
However...
However what?
A counterattack arguing if the hardliners take over, the country will be polarized with civil disobedience and strikes, and if we invade, Soviet communism will be finished in Poland, and détente with the Americans will be dead.
Now he takes my blood pressure.
The entire Politburo offered themselves for a vote of confidence. The Central Committee declined the offer and proposed no changes in the leadership.
I see, and the emergency party congress is still to come. I look forward to meeting the Polish leader when I go to the seaside next month. I wonder if he'll be a communist.
In August 1981, Stanisław Kania, first secretary of the Polish United Workers' Party, left Warsaw for his annual holiday in the Soviet Union by the Black Sea. There he met Leonid Brezhnev, first secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union.
Comrade!
In an atmosphere of cordiality and complete mutual understanding, the leaders of these two great socialist nations had a frank exchange of views. The July Congress of the Polish United Workers' Party was over. They started by voting in a central committee, which swept aside 7/8 of the old guard. Kania, the great reformer, was re-elected first secretary. Even so, the Congress knew that Poland was on the horns of a dilemma, and both horns made a showing in the Politburo.
Why did they keep Olszewski?
He's respected for his economic ideas.
Why?
Because Gerek sacked him.
And Jaruzelski?
The Prime Minister is respected by all sides.
Do you know how you got into this mess?
Comrade First Secretary, we must have strayed from the Leninist path.
You got into this mess by getting into debt to capitalist bankers.
This is very harsh.
I'm sorry, but last March you had the unhappy distinction of being the first communist country to request a rescheduling of its debts.
We know what to do. Prices must increase 2 or 3 times over. A loaf of bread should perhaps quadruple. We know that. But you understand, we have problems.
There were daily disturbances. At workers' meetings, when party officials used the word
The attitude of solidarity is arrogant and offensive. You won't get eggs if you don't feed the chickens. Production this year is down 18%. Coal is down 14%. Wages are up 20%.
I'm a coal miner, Comrade Rakowski. Miners are going to work hungry. How can you expect hungry men to raise production?
We're pouring steel to 40% of capacity. The whole place is run inefficiently. We could double output if we had workers' self-management.
For God's sake, one thing at a time.
We don't have time. You've had time. It's been nearly a year since we signed the agreement in Gdansk. We've been cheated, lied to, misrepresented in the press and on TV. We've given you time. Next week we'll call a printers' strike. We'll close down the radio and TV if we don't get the access we were promised.
Are we here to talk about bread or TV?
Bread.
I have to tell you, from September the 1st, a loaf costing 7 zlotys will cost 17 zlotys. Flour will increase somewhat less, it will double.
We are not a poor country. We are badly managed. The question of workers' councils to take charge of production is now urgent.
Gierek gave us those in 71. They soon got sucked under by the party machine.
In 71, there was no solidarity.
On September 4th, the Soviet Union put 100,000 men into military maneuvers around Poland. The following day, the First National Congress of the Free Independent Union, Solidarity, opened in a sports stadium in Gdansk.
This Congress
is the heritage of the blood of 1956, of 1970, and of 1976, and of all the struggles of the Polish workers. The fight has just begun, but we shall win!
The Congress called for free elections to Parliament, for union supervision of food production and distribution, for public control of the mass media, for workers' self-management. Jan Rulewski called for
the deletion of the clause recognizing the leading role of the Polish United Workers' Party.
There was worse to come, a clarion call to the entire workforce of Eastern Europe.
I quote, "The delegates assembled in Gdansk send greetings and expressions of support to workers in Albania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, the German Democratic Republic, Romania, Hungary, and all the nations of the Soviet Union. We support those of you who embark on the struggle for a free union movement." I am ordered to make the strongest possible protest on behalf of the government of the Soviet Union.
Of course. It is most regrettable. Thank you.
Albania?
Albania.
It's not really funny. It's probably the end.
They're still talking. During all this, the government offered Solidarity a formula for workers' self-management. Evidently, there were still Poles talking to Poles.
Jaruzelski did his officer training in the Soviet Union.
During all this, the government offered Solidarity a formula for workers' management. Evidently, the party was playing cat and mouse with the union.
Jan, stick to Poland. The Albanians, the Hungarians, and the Bulgarians look after themselves. I'm surprised Rakowski is still talking to us. How are the others getting there?
It's just us four.
That's just how I like it. A presidium that could fit into a Fiat.
I move that we reprimand Lech Walesa and his presidium colleagues for the undemocratic way in which they have reached this decision on workers' self-management. 4 men voted 3-1, and they presume to overturn a resolution made by the 900 others in this hall.
We could have come back empty-handed, but we didn't. We made a decision. It takes guts to make a decision. It takes no guts at all to stand up here and complain about the world.
I'm standing against you for the leadership.
You're making a mistake, Jan.
Why? You think you're indispensable?
No, but Marianne Jurczyk is already standing against me. You split the vote.
Gwiazda is standing too.
3 of you. All or nothing. Now or never. I've been trying to tell you for a year. That's how to lose.
Walesa won with 55% of the vote. Talks began again between Solidarity and the government. The union gave the government 10 days to produce results or face a national strike.
Good morning, Comrade First Secretary.
Within a week, there was a result of sorts.
Everything is ready for you.
Thank you. For the first time in a communist country, one man was head of the party, the government, and the army. It was the first communist party anywhere to be led by a general.
You don't think the effect is a bit South American?
Back in August, the general said,
How long can the patience, moderation, and goodwill of the Republic be put to the test? Polish soldiers have the right to say, enough of this indulgence.
The fact that he was speaking to a passing out parade of young officers at the time made it less startling than it might have been. But nowadays, there were generals in more and more government posts. Education, money, transport, even a general in charge of the Polish airline. The only thing missing was the appointment of the chief of the general staff to the Politburo, and that came at the end of October.
I think political rule in Poland's already some sort of fiction. The army's starting to run things. Political power is lying in the gutter for somebody to pick it up. Maybe the people nearest the gutter have the best chance. The Stalinists will call it socialism, the anti-Semites will call it nationalism. But you have no chance at all. If you were handed power on a plate, you'd be left fighting over the plate. I thought that a workers' protest movement could lead to a truly socialist Poland, but it required discipline, it required stability, it required solidarity. The union executive is being pulled around like a tin can tied to a dog's tail.
And we deserve it. The workers are activists. We're a bureaucracy.
How else are we supposed to negotiate for them?
We negotiate, they fight.
That's surrender. Not to the government, to chaos. I'm going to propose a national warning strike so that at least for an hour we can look like an organization again.
Jesus Christ, in Katowice there were 5,000 fighting the police with stones. Students took over the radio station. And you want to stop work for lunch?
Yes, that's right, yes. I don't want 5,000 people throwing stones somewhere at the other end of the country. Produces nothing. That's an opportunity for the generals who can't wait to save the nation. I'm right, aren't I?
We're going back to Warsaw. We have to start again.
A new party.
No, a reappraisal.
A discussion group. Maybe you can write another open letter.
The Communist Manifesto was an open letter. The written word. I believe in it. When this Tower of Babel has collapsed upon itself, you need to be reminded what the noise was all about. You failed because you have no reliable framework for your actions. We need a theory for survival in a communist country. So maybe you're going to need the intellectuals after all. Next time, eh?
Poor Mr. Curran. He thinks if he left the party alone, the party will let him alone. Poor Mr. Curran.
Cheap trick using children. Worse than using dogs.
Do the Walesas have a dog?
A little too late to be scrupulous about detail, isn't it?
So what is the answer to Curran?
I know Curran. In 1800, he was in nostalgic exile in Paris, waiting for history to put the clock back. In 1900, he was a revolutionary Marxist in London, waiting for the proletariat to put the clock forward. Now he's in People's Poland, and it seems to be neither one thing nor the other. An independent slave state ruled by worker princes. No wonder he's disappointed.
Well, then what?
Theories don't guarantee social justice. It's social justice that tells you if a theory is any good. Right and wrong aren't complicated. When a child cries, that's not fair. The child can be believed. Children are always right. It's still a cheap trick.
So I'll take it back. So Curran went back to the drawing board, and Solidarity went ahead with a warning strike.
It's music to them. Music.
In the Central Committee, even in the Politburo, there are voices asking us to set our democratic system aside until peace is restored. There are 12,000 on strike in the textile mills. If the independent union cannot control its anarchists, we will have to find some other way.
I was in the textile mills. I met these anarchists. 12,000 women. Young girls and grannies, working wives. Do you think they're on strike because they want to overthrow the party? No, they're on strike because work brings no rewards. And it doesn't look as if the government knows what to do about it. They get up in the dark to stand in line for hours for a pair of shoes the wrong size so that they may have something to barter for a piece of meat, which turns out to be rotten. They appeal to you and you say, oh, we can't help it. These anarchists are making life impossible. And it turns out that they're the anarchists.
Look, they can't break the circle. Somebody else has to do it. And I don't think you can do it on your own.
I agree. You know our proposal. An action front representing all the social forces. The government, solidarity, the church, the peasants, the official unions, Catholic intellectuals, economists, scientists, a team of national unity.
You just want to water us down. But we're 10 million! And we won't sit down as equal partners with the incompetents and hacks. The central planners, the time servers, the seat warmers. All the ones who had the chance and lost it. You failed! And the best answer now is an economic council. Independent, with real power. Made up of solidarity and government equally. With equal voices.
What sort of government do you expect to hand over its authority to a committee?
Your sort. A government with no mandate at the end of its string.
Perhaps you'd like to tell that to the General.
You mean the Prime Minister?
Yes, the Prime Minister, the First Secretary, the General.
How many votes does he get?
Comrade Walesa.
General Jaruzelski is interested in a new initiative with Archbishop Glemp. Will you meet them?
Just the three of us?
Just the three of you.
What do they want? Your autograph?
You had no authority to accept.
Should we announce that we aren't even willing to talk to the Prime Minister and the Primate of Poland?
Not we, you. Why you?
I was asked.
You were asked because you're Jaruzelski's meat. You're a babe in arms.
So is Glemp. The General wants the moral authority of the Church and the social seal of approval of solidarity.
They'll muzzle you.
I'm going.
Lech, you're a vain fool. Your moustache is famous, but there's nothing above it.
You can throw me out any time you like. I'll go and I'll take the Union with me. I'll dissolve it within 2 weeks.
Where will you take it? To New York? In 2 weeks' time, you'll be the guest of the American unions. Maybe you should have taken the Union with you when you went to Geneva, to Paris, to Japan, to the Vatican.
We don't have to destroy ourselves. There's others willing to do it.
That's right. And the way to destroy us is to go around calling the government traitors, Moscow servants, Jews. What did you mean by that, Marianne?
I meant they're traitors, Moscow servants, and in many cases, Jews.
As a Catholic, I reject you. As a union, we dissociate ourselves from such talk.
Wait till you get to America. The Americans won't hear a word you say about your ideals for the Union. They'll make an anti-Russian carnival out of you.
That's true. You're right. I won't go. The America trip is off as of now. That's right. When someone's right, they don't have to argue with me. The right move, the wrong move, I don't need argument. I can feel it. Right and wrong. This meeting feels right, and I'm going to it.
Cardinal Wyszynski had died in May. The new primate of Poland was Archbishop Joseph Glemp, the son of a salt miner and a close friend of the former Cardinal of Krakow, who was now in the Vatican. The meeting which took place between the primate, the general, and the Union leader on November 4th, 1981, was without precedent, not just in the Polish crisis, but in the communist world. The meeting lasted 2 hours and 20 minutes. That much is known. But as to who said what to whom...
Don't tell me. Let me guess. Cards on the table.
Playing one's hand.
Riders.
We are Poles. There is much we can agree on.
Certainly, we want to settle our own problems.
All right. Thank you.
The Russians are reluctant to intervene, but at a certain point they would have to overcome their reluctance. That point will be reached when socialism breaks down in this country.
We can't even agree on language. What is this socialism you're talking about? Solidarity is socialism.
Archbishop?
Socialism is order. Your extremists create disorder.
Father, the government is trying to make accomplices out of us by holding these Russians over our heads. Behave yourself for Poland's sake. Why should we believe it? The Russian scare shouldn't change what we think or do. That's blackmail, and it isn't moral to give in to it. We can afford to be wrong, but the church has got to be right.
But there was no fly on the wall. No one knows how little backing Walesa got from Glemp, or how much. How, in fact, he played his hand.
We are Poles. There is much we can agree on.
Certainly we want to settle our own problems.
All right, thank you. The Russians are reluctant to intervene, but they would have to overcome their reluctance if socialism breaks down in this country.
We can't even agree on language. What is this intervention? It is invasion and occupation to rescue a discredited dictatorship.
The dictatorship of the proletariat, as expressed through the party, is the only government we've got, and Solidarity is not letting it govern.
The government has reneged on most of the provisions of the Gdansk Agreement. The conflict is of your creation because you deny the rights of the citizen.
Everything is true except the words and the pictures. It wasn't a card game. But the players were running out of time. Elections were due in February, and one problem a communist government can't afford is to be re-elected.
We have elections in February. In the last few months, 35 anti-socialist groups posing as political parties have been formed. We all have reason to fear the consequences.
Poland's socialist dictatorship is the most democratic government we have got, and the most Polish. We are here to decide how best we can feed and clothe the population. Am I wrong? Without the economic problem, there would be no political problem. Without the political problem, there would be no Russian problem.
We have coal reserves for 2 more weeks. How do I get the country running again? I've asked you to ban wildcat strikes. I've offered to sit down with you in a council for national renewal.
With us and enough others to give you a tame majority.
Supposing Solidarity had a veto?
No. But perhaps if every member had the right of veto?
No.
Then just Solidarity and the government.
And the church?
That's possible. What do you say?
All those in favour? Lech. We didn't wait. Well, we made some progress.
I've got something to put to the vote.
We've already voted. A national strike in 3 months if the government doesn't satisfy conditions.
And a ban on unofficial strikes?
We voted on that too. No bans.
Is that your idea of progress?
Yes, it is.
You're sitting in my chair. If it's confrontation you want, that's fine. Because that's what you're voting for. You might as well leave now and start prizing up the cobbles of the streets. I'm here with a new formula for talking with the government. A national committee. Yes, I know. They lie. They cheat. Kick and bite and scratch before they give an inch. But that's how we got this union. Inch by inch across a negotiating table.
We got it by going on strike and staying on strike.
No, you're wrong. We got it because we could deliver a return to work. We've got nothing else to negotiate with. And if we can't deliver, what have they got to lose?
They've conned you, Lech. The talks are a sham. Across the table is where they want us. While we're talking, they're getting ready to hit us. You keep the chair. I'm not going to be needing it anymore.
Andre's resigned. Him and others. They say my line is too soft. Maybe it's his. I read in the papers that Walesa is a moderate. If he hasn't, is a radical, and I feel a sort of shame. How brave it sounds to be a radical.
You're radical enough. Solidarity's losing its halo, Lech. The TV makes you look like saboteurs. You're getting blamed for the shortages, for the farmers' strikes, for the students' strikes, for the taxi drivers' strike, for everything. People are saying the government can't solve it, Solidarity can't solve it. There's only the army left, and better ours than theirs.
What people?
Ordinary people, you know. Not the Presidium, not the government. People.
Wish I could talk to Jacek.
Why can't you?
Where did they get you?
At home.
What for?
Attempting to overthrow the state, I think. What's happening outside?
Well, we're getting there. The Western bankers have given us an ultimatum. The zloty is being devalued, and Parliament won't pass a strike law. So I would say about a week. Tomorrow we move in against the fire brigade cadets.
Troops?
Not yet. Riot police. We'll use helicopters to secure the roof, and then go in through the main gate.
You're still talking to them about workers' self-management. It's confrontation, Lech.
Confrontation was always at the end of the road. I hoped to get there by easy stages. I think we could have got further. But I miscalculated. Now we have to change our tactics. And be prepared to move at lightning speed.
We'll liberate the radio and the TV. We'll establish our own council for the national economy. We'll be like a provisional government.
We're there.
None too soon. This trap has been a long time springing.
Forgive me. I prefer to think of it as a regrettable outcome.
We all forgive you, Wojciech.
The final meeting of the National Commission of Solidarity ended in Gdansk on Saturday night, December the 12th. There was going to be a day of demonstrations, a national protest against strike laws, and going all the way now, a reappraisal of the Soviet connection.
Remember once they arrested you when I was nearly giving birth? Which baby was that?
Yes, I remember. Everything was simpler then. We didn't fight amongst ourselves. There was only one way to go. Then round the corner, there was a fork in the road. And each fork led to a fork. So we got separated. Well, it's been 16 months. And we've gone further and quicker than anyone expected. Jacek said we could win little by little, or lose overnight.
Lech.
The phone lines have been cut off from Gdansk. I'm sorry. We may have to be apart for a while.
You don't know that. Lech?
think I've always known.
It was not a conflict between ideologies, trying to make one system fit in with another. Marxist Leninism. What would Lenin have thought of the Polish church or Polish agriculture, 80% privately owned? Ideology is as dead as Lenin. All Brezhnev demanded of us was a political guarantee of the military alliance and reliable railways for the army. All the rest is self-delusion.
By dawn on Sunday, September 13th, almost the entire Solidarity leadership was under arrest. The military council, which announced itself as Poland's savior, also arrested the former First Secretary, Edvard Gehring, together with 5 others who had helped him to bring the party and the country to the point in August 1980, when the shipyard workers on the Baltic coast went on strike and demanded the right to form a free and independent trade union. When the summer came, Wojciech Jaruzelski, first secretary of the Polish United Workers' Party, left Warsaw for his holiday in the Soviet Union by the Black Sea. There he met Leonid Brezhnev, first secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union.
Greetings, comrade.
Greetings, comrade First Secretary.
In an atmosphere of cordiality and complete mutual understanding, the two leaders had a frank exchange of views.
So, how's tricks?
Fine.
And Mrs. Jaruzelski?
Oh? Oh, fine. And you?
To tell you the truth, I haven't been feeling too well.